What is going on, my freaks, geeks, and free thinkers? This is Mike Romanelli with the Freethinkers Society, episode number 60. I'm sitting across from our main man, Clint Esposito. Clint, what's going on, brother?
Not much. Just had a good conversation, didn't we?
Yeah, you look quite tired.
I'm pretty tired.
I don't know if you're if you're tired or you just got real into, I don't know why I say character, because we're not characters, but you got real into the guest and kind of...
No, I was trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah, I told her when you bolted at the end of the podcast, I'm like, we're done, and I'm like, Clint's not here, I don't know how to end this thing. I was trying for a little bit, I don't know.
I was
and I'm like, he's really stoned.
No, I just went downstairs and sat in a chair and closed my eyes in the dark. And I'm like, because I was going to fall asleep here in front of everybody. So I'm like, this is dangerous in this dark room, because I went and sat in that comfy chair in the comedy room. I'm like, I'll end up fucking, you'll come down and be like searching for me.
We should put the what do you call it? The picture, the banner for this one should be the picture I took of you when you were sleeping, when you were running the dojo one night.
Dude, then we, the last time I was here doing a show, or maybe it wasn't the last time, I think the time before that, I went into the office and sat down and was just like, I'm so tired.
I heard about that one, yeah.
Yeah, and then Vic came in there and he found me sitting there. So he's like, I'm going to bust a room. So I was like, okay, get 2 tubs. I'll come out and help you. Then he opens the door back up and he goes, all right, I'm leaving. And I go, you going to do the room? He goes, I already did it. And I'm like, fuck, I've been sitting here that long? He's like, yeah.
Man, we might have to talk about smoking before you come to work, sir.
That's why I don't do, I don't work before
That's
comedy
why you don't do Xanax before you come here?
I don't work before I do comedy shows.
No, you shouldn't do that.
So that way I can get sleep in.
Before you get up, you definitely shouldn't. But no, that was so yeah. So this was a lot of fun. Our friend Megan Kush is on this episode, and for any of you guys that don't know Megan, well, you'll find out about her from this episode. But she's a big deal in legalization of cannabis space, and she's doing some amazing work, helping all kinds of people. Now getting to the psilocybin. Well, she's been, but that's really starting to take off now with the microdoses. And like I said, she's the real deal, a great human being. We need more people. I find her very inspiring, and I hope other people do, because she really, she don't give a fuck. She knows, that's a real truth fighter. That's somebody that, and she's been doing it for a long time. People don't understand how back in the day, how cannabis and all that stuff was really, that was really, you were looked at as a criminal or a dirtbag.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm so thankful that young people don't have to see that shit anymore. But yeah, that's Clint, you know how it was. Like we get into in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. One thing I do want to say to any of our listeners, guys, if you can, please, we were starting to get shadow banned, and Clint and I, we're not monetized. We don't have sponsors. We have a couple of friends we have a few that we shout out, but it's not like we have some major sponsors or anything like that. But we are getting shadow banned, and we're trying to build up our channels and things, and it looks like they're not putting our stuff out there. So if you guys can review the podcast, if you enjoy it, or rate it, or tell a friend, or share it with some of your friends so you can get the word out, that would be greatly appreciated. And I hope you guys love this episode.
Doodling and Etruscan, addicts of drugs not yet synthesized, black marketeers of World War III, excisers of telepathic sensitivity, osteopaths of spirit, investigators of infractions denounced by bland paranoid chess players.
Megan, I noticed that for you, I noticed recently you started posting things about shadow ban.
Oh man, I've just been getting just hit bad. It feels like sometimes.
Right, you've been shadow banned, right?
A bunch, a ton, and people can't share anything or can't post me or tag anything without having to put a COVID notification on it, and whether their post has anything to do with anything medical, COVID, quarantine, nothing. I mean, it can be about something. Some of these posts that were shared were so not even related. It was hilarious.
Yeah. So it's funny because shadow ban has been a thing that obviously people in this community have been talking about for a while. And I kind of never really thought about it, looked into it, because I feel like we didn't have a big enough audience in the beginning, right? So I'm like, what is it? It doesn't matter to us, right? And not that it's a big deal, and it has hurt a lot of my friends, but I didn't think they were like shadow banning everyone. But then recently I was just bored one day, or I think I wasn't feeling well last week, and I started looking at our numbers. And when we first started, it's the opposite of how podcasts should evolve. Like, we came out pretty strong, and our numbers were big, and our YouTube like was growing at a pretty a nice rate for somebody who's not famous by any means, right? And it was going pretty well, and like we would have hundreds of views, couple that had 1,000 or more views, and then all of a sudden it just went down to like 20, and I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. And I was like going back and forth in my head, like, when Megan comes on, I want to talk about drugs, and it's going to be a conversation that really we don't need to talk about any of the stuff that would get our videos, shadow banned or whatever you can call it. And I was like going to have this talk with you, and I talked to Clint about it. I'm like, let's be careful about what I'm like, fuck that. What am I doing? This is not what I don't give a fuck. No, we're going to talk about whatever the fuck we talk about. But I was going to, like, in my mind, like, let's do an experiment, because I know Megan, she'll be cool with it. Let's say, hey, we're going to only talk about, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I was about to do that.
Self-censorship.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, wait. This is like, I'm breaking a fucking rule of mine for no. I mean, I'm not saying that we need to talk about all the crap going on. If it goes there, sure, fuck it, who cares? That's just what's going on in the world.
Instagram started shutting me down like 10 years ago for cannabis stuff. They were is the end of the prohibition when the legalization was happening. I had quite a lot of traction on Instagram. I was like 9,000 followers, all cannabis stuff. And then they would shut me down right about when I get to about the same, like right around 8,000 every time. And there's 2 different times down. I still can't get Kush Kreams, just straight up Kush Kreams back.
What?
And that was literally, I don't think for anything besides like other people, like haters, like reporting stuff. And I would have not like the weed porn that all my friends have. I wouldn't have big pour outs of raws, and I wouldn't have like, anything like that. It was just really basic cannabis legalization stuff and stuff like that. And they would flag me, and then they shut me down.
Wow.
Like, you're closed. And that was early on. So this was kind of like round 2 for me on the whole shadow banning and dealing with the social media censorship.
Were you saying, what do you think it had to do more with, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, it was really just right around the height of the legalization movement here between like 2012 and 2016 when it became voted in, and then the actualization of legalization.
So do you think that's where that was coming from, to stop with that? Or do you think it had to do, were you posting any conspiracy type different things back then?
Liberal, like voting for Obama, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton voting, you know what I mean? I was being bad at that point as far as any political stuff.
You were or were not?
I was not posting anything political at all at that point.
Oh, so that's crazy, because now it's like, I mean, how many sites? It's I think it's a lot of people just kind of scamming others, right? With you see so much, like you called it weed porn or whatever. It's like it's everywhere. I mean, all kinds of drugs. That's just Instagram. It's everywhere. They don't mess with that. I get scam accounts like following us all the time.
Yeah, it was just literally, I think, from people reporting, look at this gorgeous sunset out here. We normally have sunrises at Sunrise Beach. Wow. Look at that gorgeous sunset. You can't really see the mountain, but there's like Mount Rainier, right?
Yeah,
dead nuts in the middle there.
That is amazing. Whenever you post things like that, I'm like, you have quite a view.
It's gorgeous. It's really pretty right now. The water's really pink. Like when I'm looking out the window by it, I was like, I have to look up. Oh my God, the mountain's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
It's just.
So this whole shadow ban thing's crazy. I do think that, I was just saying to Clint before we started, that the last couple of days it looks like the tide is turning. I don't know so much with shadow banning, but it seems like a lot more of the masses are saying things that we all been saying since the beginning of this shit. I noticed that. I noticed that there's been a lot of people going after fucking little troll Fauci. Like, even they're starting to turn on him, but you gotta always keep our head on a swivel, man, because like, in a way, I was just saying to Clint, like, it could really just be he's the fall guy. Like, okay, the plan didn't work, so let's throw this guy away and we'll just forget about it and start. So I don't think it's going away. As much as it's nice and I can't wait for this shit to go away, I don't think it's going to be as easy as the hope that everyone's got on the internet. But it does look like the narrative is starting to shift. I don't know, right? Have you noticed that?
Definitely. I feel like a lot more people I've woken up within like the liberal cannabis community and community about here. So many people have discredited things that I've posted that have finally just worn into them and more, just they finally have looked into it enough, or I've just, posted enough repetitive stuff. But what I get feedback from people is that I blocked from them, but I'll be like, say at the end of the stories, I'll be the very last one. And they always like, feedback to me is they like my stuff, that they're looking at my stuff, and that I should be, if you would go by the normal algorithm, at the beginning of their sequence versus the very last one. And I notice that happens with truthers that I follow too, that they'll be at the very end of my story sequence. And I'm a busy person. I can barely make it through like a few of those, like, profiles, like stories. So when I try and like things and try and do things, so it'll be at the beginning of my sequence. And I notice that, certain people will have certain periods of time that they'll just be the very last one I'll see behind like the farthest back shit.
I think, can't you go in and hit some setting like to follow certain accounts or something?
Can you?
I'm not
it'll just override that, because I tried to do that too. I tried to make it so I could see like what I wanted to, so it make the use of my time, and it just overrides that, and it doesn't take them away completely, but it puts them at the very end of your sequence.
You really have to only follow like a handful of people, otherwise they just hide stuff.
Yeah.
I went through that account for the club and I was deleting people, and then all of a sudden just people kept popping up that I'd never seen before that were just there, but they've just never shown us.
Oh yeah, it
was weird.
It's real weird. Like I remember back in the day, I don't use Facebook, but Facebook was really like you saw whatever you want. Like it was just all there. Whatever you followed, you saw everyone, whatever they posted. If you want to talk to whoever your friends were, they all got the message. Then they started fucking with things. But, I really think that this is showing more the power of podcasts. Let's knock on wood, but the feeds have been allowed and I don't hear much shadow banning going on Apple and things like that. That's great.
It's amazing.
Yes, I'll tell you how they do. They do a little bit of shadow banning on a podcast I listen to that's out of Washington. It's called Pardon My American, and they won't they'll be like, you go to Apple Podcasts and they'll have the shows and then the update or the latest episodes. It will not put the latest episodes of Pardon My American on there like half the time. But if I go to the show individually, I can see the latest episode, but they won't put it on my update.
You know what? That's happened back in the day with me with Sam, for sure. That used to happen with some tinfoil hat. We had to go into the tinfoil hat, click it. So I guess there's some fuckery going on. But the nice thing is, like, at least for this little show, is we have a nice little listener. I love the listeners. They're awesome, and people do listen. And, I don't think we're going to gain more listeners from any of the social media platforms, and that's fine. And, I'm not going to fucking play along. At first I was like, let's play along. But then I was thinking about, like, why? We're never, even if we get the 10,000 subscribers, we're going to just get fucked with even more. So, like, why even try to pretend like we're going to play in that?
We just need 1,000 so we can have ads.
Whatever we need. I just think that no matter what, it's just going to drive us crazy. So I say, fuck it. I mean, I'm not saying fuck YouTube altogether, but let's just see what happens instead of me trying to censor myself.
Well, it's self-censorship. That's what they want.
That's what they want, exactly.
They want you to play by the rules and don't talk about the taboo things.
On a podcast, I'm sorry to interrupt, but how many people won't say COVID or won't say vaccine, and they won't say, and they have all these Coco-19.
That's the new thing.
The jibber jabber and the fucking, the this, that, the other thing, and so that they won't have the AI algorithm people pick up on their the vocal, the audio.
I've been thinking about that lately too, and it's like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And we have like I said, we have a nice listener base here. I think we will grow more, and if any of our lovely listeners out there, we're not going to grow through social. So if you do like this, either please like rate it or tell your friends, because we're definitely not going to grab more listeners through social media.
I think rating and reviews are a big deal.
They absolutely are. But something's gonna change. First of all, open source and different platforms and things are going to come out sooner or later where it will be where we could just all freely share ideas again. I hope, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it will just be through podcast and telegrams and things like that.
Do you not think the noose will tighten on podcasts as well?
I hope not.
Or?
I hope not. It might. And then,
as a listener, I feel like when you hear, podcasters using different types of lingo, like the Coco 19 or whatever, it's just like people using a fake vax card to get into an event when they don't believe in the vaccine and stuff like that, but yet they still do that.
You're playing the game. I agree, Megan.
Yeah.
You're still taking your money to those places.
Yeah.
You're like, you got over on them, but you didn't. You basically made it so that they're not liable for letting you in, and they got your money.
It's so true.
And you get mass numbers of people that are vaccinated for their number.
It's so fucking true. I mean, I am the same way. I'm not playing these fucking games. I'm not doing it. And I'm just gonna miss concerts for now, and I'll miss things because you're not really pushing back if you're doing that shit.
No, you're not, because those people are still making money. So why are they going to not play by the rule? Like if they
exactly
if they were like, hey, you have to be vaccinated, and everybody was like, fuck that, we're not going, and all of a sudden they had no sales, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna be like, maybe we should abandon this plan.
So
I don't believe, I'm just a hustler to the heart, and a lot of people want fake vax cards and stuff like that, and I've even had a couple in my possession and just haven't passed them on. I'm part of the legalization psilocybin ballot out here, and they required it to get into the ballot initiative fundraiser. And I literally brought the two from my plug, and I left them in this Ziploc bag. I went to fill them out, and I was like, you want me to take them out of the bag? I'm not going to fill these out. This is how these were given to me. I was like, I'm not going to fill them out. And the lady looked at me because she first asked for my ID and a vaccine proof. And I was like, oh. And I just held up a Ziploc bag that had the two unfilled out vax cards in there. And I was like, I'm not going to fill these out. This is how I received them. And I felt so morally conflicted at the end of that. I just decided I wasn't even going to put it forward again.
Yeah.
Let alone fill it out and play the game. But
yeah. So I have a couple questions for you from that. But one thing does it blow your mind, Megan, the way it blows my mind? Because we're kind of from we are from some of the same worlds, just different coasts, from the music scenes and, the we'll call it hippies and ravers and all. Does it kind of blow your mind that all of a sudden that these people, I learned about a lot of weird subculture things, let's say something like aluminum in deodorant, right? I learned that's why all the hippies smelled, because they were like, no, we're not putting that shit in our body, right? That, or barefoot, a lot of these weird things that I've learned that were awesome stuff, and now it just blows my fucking mind that they have become pro-vax. Does it blow your mind?
It really does. I mean, where I thought that was the radical, go against the establishment, go against the government, go against, fuck the whole thing. Now those are the people that are conforming to this what is actually the government asking you to conform, these mandates. And it really blows my mind whatever happened to the whole punk rock mentality.
But they tricked them into they're just getting them on their empathy, right? They don't want to harm anybody, so that's how they suckered them in on that one. You're doing this for other people, so they're like, I'm a good person.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. It's just weird for me. Hippies were always they were hippies and ravers were always just. I mean, ravers are a little different because they were sniffing all kinds of shit and whatever. But for the most part, it was. I don't know. It was as far as the whole natural. Everything was natural. And then all of a sudden it's they're the first in line. Vax passes all. And I get it with the punk rock thing and that too. It's but punk rockers have shown their colors how many times? Where it's when it's time to, they've done that for years. That's just an old. I don't know, just putting the vaccine in your body thing, it's I thought there'd be some pushback, and I thought, especially in I don't want to call it whatever you call these different circles, counterculture, new age, hippies, whatever. I mean, I heard of some circles where they pour ayahuasca medicine where they were asking for vax identification. I'm like, what shaman? Do not go to that shaman. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
And they're talking about and it's what the fuck is happening?
I think I would compare this to Harley people or bikers, right? Back in the 60s, if you were riding a Harley around, you were kind of a badass, right? And then now there's all these yuppies with Harleys and Harley jackets, and they don't know what is going on. It's the same thing.
Only
Well,
people that can, really, for the most part,
yeah.
the
So
Harleys.
Yeah.
So Megan, that really that kind of threw me off. I wouldn't think it's very similar, but like in a psychedelic, was it for legalization and they wanted to see a vax card? I mean, I guess it's government stuff.
They require it for every single cannabis thing that's going on. Anything that's taking place up here is because it's all liberal ran, and everybody's so pro-vaccine, pro-pandemic. It's just ridiculous. And this was for the Adapt Washington Ballot Initiative fundraiser. So yeah, completely for a psychedelic ballot initiative.
How is Washington looking with how are the psychedelics looking? Like, is it gonna? Are we looking at legalization? Are we looking at decriminalization?
Oh, there's two different initiatives out there right now. One of them similar to the one that took place in California and was voted in, because in general in California they just didn't look at the ballot that much. They actually didn't look at the bill, and it's just another, corporate, just monopolized, corporate, corrupt initiative. California is absolutely horrible, and we have that same initiative team or whatever did it for up here. And then there's also the Adapt Washington one. And so the Adapt Washington one's a lot more of like a grassroots, homegrown style initiative versus the commercialization, the corporate commercialization that is the other one. Oregon has got a great initiative out. It's already been decriminalized up here as far as around the King County, Seattle area. But this is going to be structuring, the Adapt Washington is structuring a 3-tier licensing system for the therapists, the physician therapists, which are going to be the psychiatrists, psychologists. Then there's going to be the next tier down is a different type of clinical therapist to the producers, processors. They're really making it a lot more of a medical, true therapeutic versus like any type of recreational up here in Washington, which is awesome because that's where people are finding the most results, and that's what's going to get it moved on. There's two different types of decrim legalization kind of. It's like, the medical and the recreational, and this one's definitely a lot more of a medical movement.
So, so if listeners aren't familiar, Megan, you had a lot to do with the early legalization of cannabis, right? You put a lot of work into that.
Yeah. I was just a petitioner early on for the medical, and even underage. I was a petitioner, worked for progressive campaigns down in Oregon. That was 96, and that passed. We got screwed even on our last couple of weeks of pay. We traveled up and down, the I-5 corridor of Oregon there, petitioning, and same thing, even though they screwed us, went through the same company and worked for them again because they got it passed in Oregon. We needed it passed in Washington, passed in 98. And then I wasn't for the legalization of recreational up here. I wanted it to stay medical and not go to the system that it has gone to now, which is doesn't have patients in mind. You can't do home grows. It's heavy taxation at all points. And the quality is just, there's no boutique craft farms anymore. So
you can't, this is where things just get crazy. So you cannot grow legally a home grow.
Nope, you could, but now you can't anymore.
See, to me, this is crazy because, first of all, I don't understand how any plant is illegal. I don't understand how any plant, fungus, or whatever, if you want to grow, is illegal. That's crazy. But now, I knew this was going to end up happening in New Jersey if not. I know people are saying this in New Jersey right now that, oh, you can grow. I'm like, I don't think so. I know we've had some of the harshest laws for growing for like forever. And people keep saying,
weed or mushroom?
Weed. And it's just, this is ridiculous. I just think that, and so you were more for the medical because of these reasons, Megan? Because
correct,
recreational just kind of bastardized it, right?
It really does. The taxation, the requirements that they had for licensing really weeded out and squeezed out every single small farmer, every single person that was going to be for the patient, and made it to where it cost, so much pay to play, the amount money it costs for the licensing and the type of building permits to the requirements for the HVAC to everything. People would be hundreds of thousands of dollars out and they wouldn't even have the lottery, they wouldn't even be selected yet. And that's what required to be even play. And it's that kind of, you know, and a lot of people I know, they tried to stay independent, stay independently owned, not, you know, being bought out, not taking in investors. And there is very, very few independently owned farms, producer processors, or retail shops left in Washington due to the heavy taxation at all points and all their different requirements, not only from a Washington State Liquor Control Board, but from the local building zoning permit departments to the local, you know, jurisdictions, county and city. We still haven't seen $1 back on any roads, schools, or anything. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Which all that money that they're making too. So it's
it's been ridiculous.
See, because we're in the early stages in New Jersey right now, and it's kind of reminds me, because I've had so many friends on the West Coast when this was all like, you know, boots on the ground like yourself, and hearing all, and it seems like we are in that gray area right now in New Jersey, where you go to any gas station and they're just selling, I mean, God knows what kind of garbage, but anywhere, it's like, it's almost like the Wild West right now, because it's like decriminalized, and it's like there are some medical, it's decriminalized. I think recreational is here but not really implemented yet. So you go to like any gas station right now, and you're going to see weed in behind the shelves, and it's like, you know, pre-rolls and gummies.
Not THC, but like CBD, right?
No. Right now, I'm telling you, yes, right now, and I hope I'm not like outing anyone, but I heard that they already started like knocking on doors and giving just letters to stop. But because it's like the Wild West. I mean, like in California, like when it first,
people did do that out here too. They just acted dumb for quite a while, like, oh, well, it's legalized now.
Yeah, so that's what's kind of, we're in that, but that's also kind of dangerous though, because there's some of these, like, I went and got gas the other day, went to go pay for it, and I was like, I was so like, I was looking at this selection. The guy had a wall, and I even said it. So you said, I'm like, this is Delta 8 CBD. He's like, no, real thing. And then I'm like, I've been noticing it since, that it's in every not quick check, I shouldn't say that, but every corner store. Most of the gas stations that are not brand names, they're like, you know, whatever mom and pop type places, and walls of carts, pre-rolls. They even have some, you know, where they have nugs in jars, and you know that shit is garbage. Like there's some brands that they're, you know, I don't want to say any brands, but there's some brands that are well-known California brands that I know these are just knockoffs. Like these are like, I know it, that's not a real deal. And it's
you can buy the packaging like on DH Gate for all the large brands, like let's say as an example, like with Mainstream Cookies or some of those different types of edibles, medibles that were the Nerds ropes and stuff like that. You can just DH Gate, pre-purchase that knockoff packaging, and then just heat, shrink, seal it yourself, and put your own
exactly
in there.
Exactly, and that's definitely what these. They're already shady kind of places that are selling all kinds of, you know.
And that's packaging. You're like, yeah, you got that fancy packaging, my ass. Like, you know.
Yeah, I even asked the price, and I was like, okay, you're this is no way you're charging like $30 for this right now, right? Like, okay, it's in a way it's cool. It's cool. It's cool because, for me at least, I think it's cool because for so long it was like so taboo, right? It was so that is really awesome in my opinion to see it be more accepted.
Normal. Yep.
But here we go with all the corporate bullshit that's gonna, you know, the shadiness, and like you said, like how many people would love to quit their jobs and grow pot, but you can't. A regular person, it's too hard. It's just too hard. And I've heard of people back in California that definitely in the early days that did well, and I heard California did it right. Is that true? Do you believe it? Like, do you agree with that? Like the way California did things in the beginning. That's what I was.
Cannabis?
Yeah, with cannabis, that it was done properly, and like, but they'll never follow because too many regular people made it. That's what I was told. I don't know if that's true.
That's a good way to sum it up, I guess, in a nutshell. Yeah, it was definitely the land of milk and honey for many movements, as far as like wanting to model it after that. And no one has been able to follow their model, and California has changed.
Yeah,
but
right.
And back early days going to like Oakland and Oaksterdam, I went down there and did all that stuff. I mean, those were what we dreamed of. That's the only thing we'd seen for dispensaries. So we went down there and based everything that we did up here off of what we'd seen down there. Those experiences.
So here we are, and now we have at least psilocybin, and cannabis are becoming recreational, medical, legalized, whatever we want to call it, but they're becoming decriminalized in this whole thing. Now, I really wanted to talk to you, Megan, about what can we all do, And I think this is a unifying idea. I think this is something that doesn't matter what, if you're right, left, whatever, what can we do to come together? And this is the first time ever in my life that I'll actually be a cheerleader for Big Pharma. How do we get every single drug decriminalized? And let them make it. Let fucking Pfizer make cocaine. Let them make heroin. Fuck it. Because you know what I'm really sick of? I'm sick of losing fucking people. I'm really, really sick and tired of losing. You know, there's so many of my friends that I just want to call that I can't fucking call. And they died, yeah, because they were junkies. But you know what? They didn't die because they were doing heroin. They died because fucking people put fentanyl in those bags. And we're not by making things illegal, you don't stop it, and we know this already. Come on. We've known this forever. So, yeah, I agree. People shouldn't be doing heroin. People shouldn't be doing cocaine. People shouldn't be doing meth, but they're going to. And
yeah, they're going to.
We could stop so much stuff. We could stop so much shit if we could just fully legalize drugs. Maybe I'm using the wrong terms. Maybe hard drugs need to be legalized, and maybe plants need to be medical, or vice versa, or whatever it is. But this is the first time in my life I've been thinking, like, I will go fight for Big Pharma to get, so you guys can fucking sell it. First of all, another thing we'll stop fucking jail. We'll stop jail. How many fucking people do we know that our lives, and once you put a regular person, or any kind of person, I don't care who you are, once you put them in that system, good luck trying to get them out.
Oh, and it's ridiculous too. I think like it's something like the federal government spends $9.2 million every single day to like pay for the imprisoned drug offenders, just drug offenses, like total across the U.S. I mean, that's like, I think like over like 4 billion or three something billion a year that the U.S. government, federal government spends on just the federal drug offense prisoners. I mean, I think we have like 5% of the total world population, but yet we have 25% of the total world prisoner population.
Yep. Then we're gonna look back on this, and we're gonna say this is gonna be the wrong side of history for sure. We're gonna say, Clint.
And then that kind of goes back to like, you know, so what we talked about a little bit before we started recording, but what are wars created for? For profit. So, you're looking at these private prisons and these different, prisons for profit. We have the war on drugs that was formed like in the 70s. Coincidentally, that's when 73 is when the DEA, I think, was formed. Yeah. And so we have not only, that coincidence, but it's pretty crazy if you look at just the way that the U.S. government has set up this to be a profitable thing. And I mean, all the way back to Nixon, to Reagan, to now, the whole, I guess back then the crack epidemic, and, bringing that all up with the Clinton, every single president and large politicians had their hands in this.
100%. And they're all on the take, and they're all a part of it. But here's the thing, man. Like, I never thought that we would see cannabis. I really didn't think we would see cannabis. I thought it was going to be an old man once it was legal. I really did. And I forget about mushrooms. I forget about people talking about taking psychedelics or therapeutic. I always say I was a closeted psychonaut because people always just thought it was, or most people judged you like you did. If you took acid, the same thing as just being a junkie or and a lot of stigmas are starting to end. But if we're going to see this, I truly believe that we can start having this conversation. I really do. Especially, I'm sorry, and I own a bar, and I know this is speaking, but if alcohol is legal, I don't see how any other fucking everything. If you're allowed to consume alcohol, there is no reason why anything else. And I know that sounds extreme to some people who have never done all the hard drugs or whatever, and I don't want to see people on hard drugs. I really don't. But they're going to do it. I mean, I don't know if any of you listeners out there or you guys have seen, but there's some places like Kensington and Philadelphia and Camden and Patterson. It's The Walking Dead. If you go down there, it's literally The Walking Dead. You'll see things you would never think are happening in America, and it's out in the open. And it's this whole cat and mouse type thing with the police. Sometimes they sweep it, sometimes they don't. They don't bust it. They allow. So there's all this gang activity. There's all this extra shit that happens. It doesn't need to happen. I mean, I don't know about you, Megan. I don't want to speak for you, but I could tell you for myself. I never hung out with drug dealers, but I hung out with a lot of people that sold pot, right? Sold cannabis. Because, hey, they just got to get... But then somehow, because of this system, a lot of those kids all of a sudden turned into pretty much criminals. But they got pushed because... And it's bullshit.
Of the incarcerated people that across America that are incarcerated, 80% of them are in there for possession. They're not in there for selling drugs. 80% of the drug offenders that are incarcerated drug offenders are in there for possession.
How is it even that rough of a penalty for just having weed? That's ridiculous,
dude.
I know, isn't it crazy? I mean, it's
and I think a lot of young people don't understand. And I'm very happy that they don't have to worry about the panic. But I could tell you in New Jersey, if my group was very diverse. So if we got pulled over, you already had a strike against you because you had a Spanish or a black guy in the car with you. If it smelled a little bit like weed because you guys smoked the blunt before you got in the car, I mean, when we talk about sheer terror and people's lives, people would get arrested and their lives fucked up for a dime. We even had nicks back then. I know it sounds old, but for a nickel, for a dime, for the stupidest shit.
Did you have pants
pipes
that covered your shoes totally?
Yeah.
So that's a telltale sign as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were every sign was like, "Hey, pull us over." But I mean, at least the kids don't have to worry about that now. They really don't. They
yeah, those pants are gone.
The pants are gone, and definitely don't hang out with different races of people. So that two things are good. But seriously, they fucking
1 in 5 Black African Americans will be incarcerated at one point for a drug charge.
It's disgusting.
I mean, it's just crazy, and that's because of the war on drug has been demographically
100%
like focused and centered so that they can hold back that whole generation after generation.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys, if people don't think that this is a racist system, just look into crack cocaine, guys. I am not fucking joking. You can get caught back. I don't know if it still is. I have no idea, but I know in the 80s or whatever, 90s, if somebody got caught with a gram of cocaine, you might get a slap on the wrist. You get caught with just a tiny bit of crack, you are fucking going to jail.
That was all the way until I think like 2010. Obama's who made the Fair Sentencing Act, and that's who took away that difference. So that now cocaine is actually the same type of punishment and penalty as crack.
Yeah, I mean that's just what it did. It was
before that, crack, a small like I think you could have like an ounce of cocaine and like a couple points of a fucking crack, and it was like literally the same punishment. It was just ridiculous because of all these white collar, politicians to, high end influencers that had a cocaine problem, but they introduced crack to the Black demographic, and then they increased the penalties and made minimum mandatories and all that.
And generations of Black families' lives were ruined forever. And now we're seeing it with the opiates, and this one is just for everybody, all walks of life, and we're losing generations of people are dying or in jail. And this is a real fucking problem that we all need to figure out. I mean, especially with the pandemic. Once this pandemic happened, more people that have it, and the crazy part is that more people started using and less of the real drugs are around, which goes back to another thing. Everything's got fentanyl in it. So even if
recently there's a survey in my daughter's high school, it's way easier for the students here to get types of pharmaceuticals, pills, or opioids than there's for them to get alcohol or even weed. It's sad. It's
really sad, and it's crazy, man. I literally my daughter's, she's young, but I had to talk with one of my first talks about drugs. She was telling me about a girl that's 12 that's starting to do drugs, and I had to explain. What
is she doing at 12?
She doesn't. She just said she's doing drugs. I mean, they're little kids, and I said, and she was like, kind of. My daughter was kind of, I don't want to say shaming her. She's a really little kid. But I had to explain to her. I said, you don't know what this little girl's going through. If anything, we should feel sorry for her. That's way too young. And I had to try to explain about, your brain and how, because that's another thing. As much as I love psychedelics, I did them way too early. And I wish, I'm envious of people that started in their late 20s. That's so cool because that's when it started to really...
It emotionally stumps you. It's at the age that you started doing it, it emotionally kind of stops you in your tracks. I had a sweet offer on the table for my daughters that if they would wait till they were 18, I would let them go anywhere in the world, and they could give me a list of every single drug they wanted. I had keys there for them. But the other thing was if they were going to go to the competition, go to another source for it, there's going to be in a lot more trouble than they were going to be for just doing it. So, it's the point now where I have a 12-year-old little hustler. I mean, it's just crazy, but she's hustling gummies and cartridges and things like that because there is pills and there is other stuff. So I'm trying to set them up.
I love you, Megan. This is great.
I mean, I'm trying to set the mode so that these are the cool kids that are pushing just cannabis.
You're right,
Pushing
though.
like pushing gummies, because you know what? It is going to be something that's going to take each grade's got their group of kids. It's like the cool kids or whatever. And I'm just trying to set up at least a few years of these ones that weed's the coolest thing. You know what I mean? Because a lot of other stuff's available. And it's like, you can just get that to be like the one thing they want.
And I think I would rather have my kids doing that than drinking any day of the week. Any day of the week. And it's funny, at least when I grew up, it was like drinking was way more accepted. I got in so much trouble from my father. Meanwhile, he would get us alcohol whenever we wanted, or we were allowed to drink in the house whenever, way too early. But when he found an ounce, he flipped out. And that's just that old school, to him, that's drugs. He knows nothing about this shit. So it's like, to him, this is just, you're doing drugs. It's just all together. And that messes up your little brain too, because then you start saying, fuck it. You're ashamed. I already did, I already smoked weed. So why not do anything else? It doesn't matter. It's all the same, and it's.
Well, you're like, I didn't melt into a puddle on the couch. So maybe.
I didn't.
I mean, something's going to take precedence in every kind of, generation among all the different ones. And just getting the popularity to be something that's natural and getting the culture built around that versus around other types of pharmaceuticals or alcohol, as an example, having the whole, their party scene being around getting alcohol or whatever, I'm trying to just make it a little bit more plant-based.
I mean, that's my biggest argument all the time is if alcohol is legal, because I've been born in the bar business. And unfortunately, I've watched so many people through the years die. And it's a terrible death. It's a horrible death when you're an alcoholic. And it's...
Make stupid choices, lost control of choices.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could go on and on with the people with the driving and all kinds of stuff and terrible decisions. But the thing is, like, it's promoted everywhere. Every sporting event everywhere is alcohol's everywhere. It's just so accepted everywhere you go. I don't drink anymore, and people ask you a million questions why you don't drink. It's like, it doesn't make, but no one's going to ever ask you, like, why you don't smoke. If you don't smoke weed, oh, okay. It's like,
people think it's a weird thing. Like, oh, did you used to drink? Did you have a problem? And why don't you?
Yeah, you're like a weirdo all of a sudden. I know it sucks, but,
but kind of go back to that old cliche thing. I mean, like, it's, this is kind of an echo chamber thing, but how many people, that get in a fight after drinking? How many people do you know that get in a fight after smoking a bowl together? It's quite the differences. It's cannabis makes you want to make peace, and alcohol causes just such drastic decisions.
Here's another thing. I'm almost too much information on this show, but that's okay. But here's another one, right? You drink alcohol, and someone's like, "Hey, man, I got want a little sniff of this?" Now I'm old now. I'm talking years ago. But hey, I would think, sure. Let me maybe. If I'm smoking a blunt, somebody asks me if I want. I'm like, hell no. And then I'm questioning like my life on the ride home. Like, why am I hanging out? You know what I mean? I've never smoked weed and done something crazy. I really haven't. I mean, I've done some stupid stuff where people are like, why are you driving 5 miles an hour? Why are you laughing at nothing? Like dumb, like harmless things. Where alcohol, decisions that can be made are horrible. And I truly believe that's the real gateway. 100% is alcohol.
The peace pipe, I don't know how many times I've had friends that have had beef about something or some deal that didn't go. I'm like, let's get together, have a session, and work it out.
Absolutely.
Let's get together and get drunk and work it out. That's like,
yeah, right. Yeah, that would be disaster. Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you agree with me about legalization of everything?
I go back and forth on that. I think that it would save America so much stress, money, family, everything. I am for it, I have to say, but I see the argument the other direction. But if you look at different countries that have adopted that model,
Portugal,
Portugal, different parts of Canada up there, like different, trying to think some other places that have done it. But they really, if you look at their medical overhead, their in prison cost overhead, all their different federal government overheads is a lot lower than ours that we have created. But that's kind of back to war on drugs. Wars are created for profit. Well,
that's why my argument was let big pharma let the government make all the money they need to off of it. I'm sure I mean I don't know, but I'm sure
they make more money off of imprisoning people
so?
And the whole other system.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, I mean, you might be right, but I mean, the cartels and all those criminal organizations, it seems to make a lot of money off of this shit. And that's another thing that would just kind of end a lot of that crap. It would end a lot of just the violence and all the extra stuff, all that seedy stuff that comes along with drugs. And like I keep saying, like, we're not going to get rid of the problem.
The cartel. You know what I mean? That is the fucking cartel.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So you're talking about killing like 5 revenue streams here with one fell swoop.
Damn. I thought we were going to come up with some solutions.
That's the issue. No, that's it. The problem is that they're making all this money off of it.
I mean, I guess, you know, and then you would know better than me, Megan, but I heard that, like, what was it? I heard the alcohol lobbyist and the prison union guard lobbyists were the biggest ones against cannabis legalization. And there you go. It's right there. I mean, I can understand alcohol. Alcohol might be pro cocaine though, legalization. Like, we doubled our sales, you know, so much more.
At least.
But like, yeah, I guess it's a really crazy thing, but I don't understand how we're up in arms over fucking this virus. Then, you know, it's something is happening. I'm not a complete denier. You know, a lot of older people, a lot of people with comorbidities are gone. Yes, but a lot more people are dead from overdosing, or fucking lives are ruined from going to prison. And I just don't what do we need to do to change this shit? Because when I was young, I thought this was just part of life. But like I said, it gave me hope to see cannabis was the first little glimpse of hope. And then seeing psilocybin and seeing regular people talking about LSD and MDMA and ketamine. It's like, and it's not, this is all stuff that was like I'm telling you, when I was young, it was all lumped together in one thing. And they're starting to break it, you know, starting to realize the benefits of certain things. So it's giving me a little bit of hope that something can change.
I feel like one of the things that everybody can, you know, like, I feel like my kind of mission as far as like opening people's eyes up have been the 2 different, you know, products and companies that I really, you know, I've started and I've behind the non-psychoactive Kush Kreams for, you know, that is giving people a legitimate reason to use cannabis with a non-psychoactive effect. And the same hand, microdosing for psilocybin, opening up the gateway drug the other direction with people that are now, you know, finding so much relief from the microdosing of psilocybin.
Yeah.
It has blown me away in the last couple of years since starting psilovitamins, how open-minded so many people are to this. It's really, I didn't even realize it, you know, for being a psychonaut myself, being an intergalactic traveler and a promoter of these products for so many years. But keeping them in that black market mind, you know, keeping them in that black market realm. And then I don't know where the information came out to the average soccer mom and the Karen about microdosing, but there was some Oprah or Martha Stewart broadcast that I missed, because I mean, everybody's on board.
But that's so beautiful. And your psilovitamins are amazing. I mean, Clint is a perfect example. He takes your product a lot. And I don't know if you know anything about Clint's story, but, you know, if you want to share, Clint's got some brain injuries from all the FMX he did throughout the years.
Unconfirmed. I didn't go to doctors. But, I mean, I definitely hit my head hard enough. At least one time where I'm like, I'm slower than I used to be. So I pretty much started microdosing like, year and a half, 2 years ago at this point, like pretty regularly. And I've seen a bunch of improvement.
I mean, I could tell you just by working with him all the time from everything. From everything from your comedy to how fast, like, you've changed a lot. And he was microdosing just on his own from research, and then, you know, we started giving him the psilovitamins that you know, you have the where it's all mixed with the, you could tell everyone, Megan, what's the blend, if you do let people know. I don't know.
There's lion's mane and reishi, and then there's curcumin, which is the component of turmeric, plus the turmeric, the cayenne and black pepper to activate these components as they're going through your body at the right part, so they'll be able to be active and absorbed at the right time as they pass through. And then the 0.2 of the Taj Mahal psilocybin Kabinzi.
So with that combination, right? What was it, Paul Stamens that came up with that, or
this
not
is
really?
Our own. Here's kind of our own.
You have a little extra in there, though, right?
There's a little trial and error that we've done, and this is just seems to be like the winning combination for people, the best results.
So you said it was lion's mane, reishi, turmeric.
Curcumin, which is the component of
curcumin.
turmeric,
Okay.
really proven to regenerate your serotonin and your dopamine. And then the cayenne and black pepper that it takes to have that stuff be active in the point when it's passing through your body, so you can absorb it at the right time.
There you go. Wow. And yeah, I mean, I've taken your product a bunch, given it to lots of loved ones, and people see just such amazing results. I mean, it's really, really fucking cool. And I think it's awesome that you're helping so many people with this.
I used to think it took 90 days, something like that, for people to truly feel the benefits and notice it. And as we've been, widespread distributing these throughout 2021, as we've taken it to an over-the-counter strength approach, I've really just taken, as starting psilocybins, taken this whole thing into an over-the-counter strength approach, has made it normal for people, just taking that taboo out of it. We ship them internationally, and hearing people's results within a few days, the feedback people have after 1 or 2 doses of it just blows me away, where I thought such a buildup before for you to be able to know.
That's what I wanted to ask you. So people are having, because I'm like, and Clint, if you want to jump in on this too, I have had it all over. It's kind of not it's not the same thing all the time. In the beginning when I was doing it, I would notice like on my off day, the big benefit more than anything. Now, I remember I said it to Clint. He said, you said the same thing, I think, right? That you like feel really happy that day.
A lot of times the day after
is even better,
I actually
right? Like
microdose.
Afterglow. Yeah, it's a true thing.
Yeah, and I'll have more revelations that day than I will actually the day on it, or like where you start to realize stuff or just see stuff in your life like from a different kind of perspective.
If somebody wants to start because I get this question all the time, and I really don't like giving psychedelic advice to people. I really don't. But if someone wants to try, I think that's why I think your product's great, because there's no trying to figure it out. It's like, here, just take one of these. But what's the regimen? Like Megan, like would you say how many days on, how many days off? How do you do it forever?
Yeah, no, there's definitely just anything that you're gonna rebuilding your serotonin and your dopamine with is something you can naturally build up tolerance to. So you want to limit that. There's no need to take like the mentality 1's good, 2's better. That's not something you want to do with microdosing, because you're going to unnecessarily build up your tolerance. So it's better to do it. And all these instructions are on every single tub, because people go and forget things. I suggest like the first month, 5 days on, 2 days off. Every single 4 weeks, the third week, you take a full week off. So every month, 1 week off. And then I suggest the next month, like 4 days on, 3 days off. It not only, prolongs conserves your tub of capsules. It makes them last long. You don't need it as much to be able to feel the relief. And then you take your, maybe a month off next time, and you save it till you have a big project or a stressful family situation or something that you, a lot of cognitiveness or a lot of alertness or a lot of patience for, and you pull it out at that point. You have somewhat of the tryptamine built up within your system, so you can, engage it without having to wait for too long. And you can use this as something in your arsenal to help you get through certain times. And what's really cool is the psilocybin movement's we've been allowed more and more of an arena to kind of, commerce, test, create a whole market for these type of products. There's been a lot more testing, and we're learning about all the different types of components that are in there, not just psilocybin, but now they're finding out there's like psilocybin and mycelium, all these different types of products. So these are going to be like the CBDs, the THC. And so all these different phenols and strains of mushrooms, which is, there's hundreds and hundreds of cubenzes alone, different types of psychedelic cubenzes. All these have different, components of them.
So do you think different strains would help different elements?
Yeah, there just hasn't been the research done on it yet. So we're just trying to document everything we can out here. We offer around 15 mushroom usually on the average, and we have for quite a few years now. And just trying to keep track of the different types of relief people are finding, and the different types of people that, customers' minds, the long-term customers, custies that are different types of people that different, kind of favor a certain type, and trying to just kind of figure out a rhyme and a reason, and a little bit of rhythm to this. Because once again, kind of like early days of medical cannabis.
Absolutely.
Patient's huge. Getting it out there is huge, and people giving you feedback.
So you don't recommend ever taking more than one? Because I'm that kind of person. Like, I've been tripping forever. I should probably take 2. Like, is that because that's just probably just my programming my brain? Because I remember when I sat with some of these crazy shamans, like the older the medicine woman was, they would tell these stories. I mean, through a translator, they would tell me, and I've heard it by quite a few of the ones that are very old. That when it gets to the point with ayahuasca, some of them would just smell it and go there. And it's interesting how psychedelics, like the reverse tolerance, and there's only a few drugs in the world that do that. So I'm wondering if psilocybin is almost something like that.
I think it's just anything that builds up your serotonin and your dopamine. It's just proven you build tolerance to really quickly. That, I feel like a lot of people have that mentality too, Mike, that 1's good, 2 must be better. I am that thought process myself, but it's something you can see that you really don't benefit that much more. Because if you're going to take 2, you might as well take 5 and have a gram, or you might as well take 10 and have a couple grams. Each one of those tubs contains 6 grams, total of what would be of the raw mushrooms. You might as well eat all 30 of them.
Yeah, at this point. Okay.
That's what I prefer, a 6-gram dose to recreational. That's what I enjoy. Marcus and I usually eat about 6-7 grams when we eat, and that's not like what it takes to get us off, but that's what it takes to go there.
Where you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like to pussyfoot around in between these macros and these. I want it to be a heroic journey or a microdose. Yeah,
I agree with that. And that in the early days of when I was just playing around with microdoses, I would totally do this thing because I got it from a real crunchy hippie, and he's like, and I'm like, what is a real microdose? And he'd be like, eat intuitively, my friend. And I'm like, you're telling me to eat? So I'd have a bag of mushrooms and just nibble instead of like, just take a little and then forget about it. So I'd nibble, and it's like, I'd spend all these days like just kind of tripping. And then sometimes if the time was right, I would just be full tripping. I'm like, this is not, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I believe like I'm too old, and I'm not trying to just have off the cuff psychedelic experience. If I'm going to go that deep, I need to respect it more and have all kinds of, setting and tension and all that stuff. I shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. But the microdose, it's cool because I don't know if you're familiar with microdosing on LSD, but that's got some great results also. I know it's a much trickier thing. And
yeah, I carried on my menu for a couple years some Keezy microdosing vials. I went through hundreds of them actually, and they're pretty popular. It's a third of a dose.
So a Keezy microdose. What was he? Ken Keezy was known for microdosing?
No.
Or just his
LSDs, like different families. There's like the Fluff family, the Keezy family. We get Owsley Stanley. We get all these different kind of pillars of the community, and the Keezy is just one type. And I stocked those in a microdosing vial for, like I said, a couple of years there. They were 1/3 of a hit, so 3 drops equaled 1, and it made it so people could microdose with the LSD without just cutting the paper into like quarters.
Yeah, because it's really hard. I've tried it with the cutting the paper, or even with like liquid and putting it, and then it's not the easiest thing. But I have to say, the microdose from LSD for me, I felt laser focused when I did that. It's not, like I said, I do not recommend it to most people unless you have access to one, it's 100% real, and you also know that it is, like Megan's saying, microdosed out for you. Because I have heard about these things, I haven't seen it myself, but
the size of the dropper. They have droppers that
there you go.
lot.
Yeah, I guess that's the way, right? That's definitely one way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not messing with somebody's dilution of it. It's just the amount that you're allotting per time, that you're allotting per the device you're using.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
definitely the easy way to do it. Absolutely.
So, like, as far as my business, I sell other types of drops and tinctures and stuff like that, and so they have different types of dosage droppers. The point whatever to 0.01 whatever. So they have different, and that's the thickness of the dropper. Speaking
of your products, the Kreams, by the way, like I I had all kinds of old injuries flare up, and you sent me some creams, and I put them on, and I've become addicted to those creams. Are unbelievable. I mean, it's part of my routine now. When I come home from work, let's get out of the shower, and I work on my feet all day, and I cannot believe how amazing that stuff really is. Really can't. Like it blows my mind. It really does.
There's a lot of love put in it. There's 35 individual ingredients that individually sourced. The main thing with the Kush Kreams is, yes, it's got amazing full spectrum cannabis. It's not just CBD. It's not that bullshit. It's full fertile female, THC, CBD, CBN, CBG, THCV, THCA. It's the full spectrum, the entourage effect. But that's going to be amazing on a lot of products. But if they're just going to sit right on the top of your skin, it's not going to do anything. I use emu oil, which is one of the only oils that's proven to get down to your epidermis, your epidermal layer. It's one of the only things since whale brain blubber that's actually penetrated that deep. And obviously that's not sustainable and not available anymore. You think about it like this: an emu, being the bird, is a mammal, and so are you. And your pH is aligned, and that's how it gives you that absorption. You're not a coconut. You're not a shea nut. You're not a hobo. And so you can put amazing components with that, but it's only going to go so far. Beeswax, different things like that. When you're getting something down to your epidermis, you're able to penetrate to the beginning of the nerve endings, to the deep muscle tissue. It's able to hit those CB2 receptors that are found in your skin cells. Those are those receptors that are able to benefit to your endocannabinoid system. It's so amazing.
Wow. So the emu oil is almost like the, like you were saying with the black pepper and cayenne in the psilovitamins. Like it helps get it into the system, almost how the other thing like helps absorb, right?
It's the wheels to the bus. It's the boat. It's everything. It's driving it there.
So on all the Kush Kreams have emu oil in it?
It's the basis of all of it. Yeah, I'm just a huge supporter of emu oil. I've been the keynote speaker yearly at the National Emu Association conferences, like stuff like that with all the old ranchers and stuff. But go head to head with vegans and stuff like that. It's a byproduct of the processing of the meat. It's something that was already, as a lower glands. It's rendered from the processing of the meat. It's something that was already being wasted. Some sick butcher one day, after chopping up chickens and chopping up fucking cows and stuff, having those oils and stuff on his hands. And then he chops up some emus for somebody one day and comes home. He's like, Bessie, feel these arms. Isn't this just so soft today? And I don't know what the sick fuck was doing, but like somehow or another, somebody realized it was good for your skin, and it's renowned. I mean, it's proven to regenerate the hair growth in the front lobal section. I do a chemotherapy shampoo and conditioner, but the emu oil is such a key component. It's just the most important. Yeah. That
stuff works with pain alone, right? Because I remember getting that stuff a long time ago for my knee, and then it was kind of hard to find for years. But I remember putting that, so just by itself. So then that's awesome, Megan. So then you take that plus all your stuff together. Wow. That's
so anti-inflammatory, the emu oil is such an amazing property that it carries on its own medicinally, not only with its penetrative qualities, but the anti-inflammatories. Big Pharma doesn't want us to know this, but everything's caused from inflammation, whether it's going to be your migraine, an eczema flare up, shingles, Crohn's disease. All these things are products of inflammation. If you just treat the inflammation, it goes to the root of a lot of problems.
Yeah, right. Inflammation is pretty much, Clint talks about that all the time. Inflammation is like the root of everything. So does the cannabis help with the inflammation as well?
Cannabis is the number one, the most anti-inflammatory plant there is. That's
really?
Why Big Pharma shut it down, kept it quiet.
Shit.
Reefer Madness era.
Did you guys see today that they were saying that? I feel like I've heard this before, but I think I saw it on like a major network that cannabis is like. I tagged you in something, Clint, today. That cannabis, like it's not a cure, but like a prophylactic for COVID or something.
Yes. Oh my gosh! Every single, you don't know how much people's things I saw on that in the last 2 days. This thing is proven to I can't even remember it. I just tuned it out because a lot of it had to do with hemp and CBD, and I just tuned out a lot of that because I'm really anti-CBD.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
So why?
It's the biggest scam that's been taking place in a long time, in my opinion. You got to realize that CBD initially came from the byproduct of manufacturing fibers, textiles, hemp ropes. It was literally the bearing grease that came in barrels of crude oil before they refined it through different processes of isolation and distillation. I can't even explain to you how upset I get about this. There's amazing stories out there that have to do with CBD, but that CBD stories like the Charlotte's Web and whatnot, those come from THC CBD, like CBD that comes from the first male cannabis plant. All of the CBD that you see at like the CVS pharmacies to the gas stations, that all comes from male hemp, because that's where hemp comes from, is the male cannabis plant. THC in the full spectrum comes from the female. You think about women, we have so much more to give, the fertile female cannabis plant. And so it's able, like, so the male hemp is legal, fertile female cannabis is not over 0.3% THC. And that's just going to be a matter of time that before they realize that if it contains any THC, it's not hemp. But all of the CBD that's out there is riding the coattails of these very, very few strains that actually have the beneficial medicinal cannabis factors, not hemp factors of CBD.
That's interesting what you just said too, because the male plant, right, is better for like materials, building things, kind of like you just said, like a man and a woman, right? Where it's like it's really should be just used, I guess, for clothing, rope, fabrics, whatever, right? And then the female is what you get, you know, all the other properties, the healing properties. So
the thing that, like,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Real quick, I'll tell you guys, for any listeners that want to learn more about this, Project CBD has a documentary or a paper written up. You can go to projectcbd.com, and that's a large real CBD source, and it's called The Oil Hustlers, and it talks about how all the mortgage, like the big mortgage scam of like 08 recession, those guys all went into this right after that. It's like their next scam.
You know, that is so interesting you said that, because I can't tell you how many people when you just said that, I just thought of a bunch of shysters that were the guys that were pushing the mortgages and were making the money. And the next thing you know, I think between that, to be fair, between that, a lot of them went to energy drinks. They were all hustling some kind of energy drink, and then CBD came. They were like, "Yeah, I got the next Red Bull," and things like, "Wow, that's crazy." They're so
like, well, I just want to open up people's, you know, minds or whatever to just cannabis in general, if it's what it's going to take to open the doors. But I heard that like New York has a bill coming out this next year that's going to ban all CBD products.
What?
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know if it's true or not.
But you know, in New York, it would make sense, because in New York, it's like anything that's criminal is legal. But like you could literally get away with anything in New York. And I know people think, oh, some like boomer right wing. No, it's true. Like, as much as I dislike Giuliani so much, because when I was a kid, I look back and I'm like, I see what he did, because he fucked up the rave scene so hardcore in the 90s, because he literally cleaned up the city. I watched it happen in real, like I watched New York City go from a lawless, like you could just do anything you want, to he cleaned up and he got rid of and he did all this stuff. And then it kind of 9/11 happened, which that's where it gets a little weird, because then it kind of turned into this corporate place and it got real too clean, in my opinion, and it got a lot of its character washed away. But now it's like it's coming back with the lawlessness, where like people are just cops don't arrest you. You do whatever you want, but they're going to make it where CBD is going to be illegal. And like they still can't gamble, I believe, on sports. Like in New Jersey, you can gamble on sports. You can do a lot of stuff. Like, but in New York, you can't. Like, there's just all these weird. Like, for the UFC was illegal up until a couple of years ago. Like, it's just there's so, and it's once again, it's all about money and bullshit. It's definitely something to do with money for them to want to make that illegal. But
well, their whole legalization and their licensing in New York is so corrupt. I believe it was only 6 licenses for cultivation for the whole state. It's like, what the fuck?
That's nuts.
Like, I don't know. That might have been changed or something, but that was what was going around in our cannabis like meetings and stuff out here. That was the initial one. It's like, how is 6 growers going to provide, or 6, you know, producing processing facilities going to provide for the whole state of New York? Tell me that's not legalization.
That's nuts. Now maybe this should be something for off air, but I want to ask you anyway. So if I've been hearing, maybe you know about this, maybe you don't, but I've been hearing about in New Jersey how it's like, and I went to the early meetings. Like they were going to make it impossible. You had to be like a multi-millionaire to get one of those licenses, and you might, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you just to get put into like a lottery, right? And you might like you have to spend all this money on legal.
All the building probably in place with all your HVAC and all your occupational, and all that stuff, which could cost. I mean,
but this one I ask you. So there's rumblings about these micro licenses that apparently those are going to be. Do you have any? I don't understand what that means. Do you know what a micro license is?
Like sub-licensing, like sublet. That's what it is. So like out here, like I don't hold a cannabis license any whatsoever. I do limited licensing agreements and things like that, which are like, I guess could be micro licensing, which is just limited licensing agreements and limited partnering agreements where you have use of their licensing in their facility. Yes.
Okay. So that's what that would mean with
and
that.
In Oregon, California, Hawaii, Nevada, Alaska, Massachusetts, and all that is that I hold those type of limited partnership agreements.
Gotcha. Okay, so maybe that's what, because I tried to get more information on it, and I couldn't really find much. And so I was thinking, I believe the article I read was like kind of almost comparing it to like microbreweries. And believe it or not, our alcohol laws in New Jersey are insane. If I was to tell you them. But they're pretty cool with all the craft breweries. Like they get away with a lot of stuff that like we're not allowed to do or whatever. And a lot of bar owners are against it. I'm not. I'm like, this is fucking great that a regular person can start a brewery if they want. Like they don't make it, it's so impossible because it's really hard to get a bar or in New Jersey. It's like the hoops and stuff that you have to go through. It's almost impossible. But the craft. So I was thinking like micro brewery. I think I read something like that. I was thinking it was like something like that. Like, but it's probably not. That's what I thought that they were. That's what they meant with that. Back to the CBD, or at least your Kreams. I noticed that when you sent me a sample pack, there was a lot of different like strands. So do they make differences? Like a lemon haze compared to? There's
a couple of different lines I have. I do on the spot muscle pain creams that are not icy, that are just like soothing, that I've had over 100 different scents, from purple haze to like the lemon haze you mentioned, to, all these different ones throughout the years. And then I also have another product that's far more popular. It's called the Permafrost, the organic Permafrost line. And that's an icy cream that we do an extraction from the blue cornmeal flower tops. And it's one of the only menthol sources that's proven to stay cool, like a stay cool source. And that's what's really popular with a lot of guys, because a lot of guys don't like cream straight up. A lot of athletes is really popular. That's got a really fast absorption rate. And you can double, triple apply that, right? Like within a couple minutes of it itself, due to the alcohol, there's moonshine in the preparation. It absorbs really fastly in the skin. It's not a hydrating cream. It's not designed to like keep your hands moist or nothing like that. It's the cream that you would use on your back, on your lower extremities, on your feet. Really great for migraines. Kids that have, autistic like seizures or epileptic seizures, moms a lot of times notice that's a temperature related thing, and they'll put it inside the wrists, at the of the neck, the spleen receptors at the nape of the neck, things like that, and they help with kids having these episodes. It's pretty amazing the alertness people get off of it. But I have a large sports medicine and like athletic following for the Permafrost.
I could see why.
Yeah.
I put it all when this business is hard on my body. We're three flights of stairs all the time, up and down them all day long. And when I come home, especially by the end of the week, my legs are killing. And Saturday night when I get home after the comedy shows, I put that all over my knees, my feet, everywhere. And I just like sit on the couch for a little bit. It's like,
It's inflammatory. This feels so good on your feet at night. Like if you've been on your feet all day, it feels so good.
Yeah. I mean, this stuff is amazing. You have got some awesome products, man. You really do. Like, and I think it's amazing what you're doing, just helping so many people. You're like, last time we talked about the veterans you're helping, and it's just wonderful, Megan. It really is.
It's like you get what you give and stuff like that. And the Kush creams, the proof's in the pudding. I just give it to people. I never once have paid to advertise, and it's literally been featured in everything from Warren Sapp holding it up like by name in Sports Illustrated magazine, like whole tub containers. This is my medicine in a little black tub. I don't know why the NFL Players Association is not listening to players' needs. You know, naming it by name, Kush Kreams. It's pretty cool. Or paid for advertising or anything like that. I don't even know how he got it. I was never notified it was going to be in there. I was shown on social media that it was I mean, it's been in Rolling Stone. It's been in Time magazine, all these corrupt ass, you know, Time, all that stuff. I mean, even the National Geographic. I mean, I've got pictures of my grow, my children when they were a couple of years old in the grow. I had to sign all these releases, insane amount of releases to Time Warner to have my children in the National Geographic with the Cannabis, the first ever Cannabis issue. There's 3 pictures of my property and like my children and my like grow and stuff in that magazine. It's pretty cool. All these things, I've won high times 6 times. I've got 20 plus cannabis cups, trophies from these products. I've been making these products for about 20 years. And now that I've been licensed and bonded and like federally trademarked, million tubs I paid taxes on the books.
Megan, you are, I mean, you really truly are boots on the ground.
It's like pretty crazy.
No, but you're truly boots on the ground. You're truly put your neck out there for years so people could enjoy cannabis and get the benefits of it, not just enjoy it, but also see the medical. And you really are. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you know,
like the magazine like just emails me like once every like 3 months or so. Like, I just want to tell you thank you again, Megan. Here I was at a situation where I was uncomfortable and like unable to bring up like cannabis, and he's like, here, owning all this, isn't that? He's like, and what did I go to? My go-to of Kush Kreams, because it's a non-psychoactive product that's not going to get you high, and it's just a real, you know, legitimate fallback for people that want to open up that conversation about cannabis. They want to bring it up to their employer. They want to bring it up to their mother-in-law, their father-in-law, and this is a product that's now a medical cannabis product. It's not going to give them a psychoactive effect. It's not some fucking snake oil. You know, it's not some fucking shit that's not going to work. It's actually going to work, and it's not going to get them high. And it's really opened up so many people's minds, you know, to cannabis. It's been amazing. I feel like right in the same line, you know, the psilocybins are doing the same thing with the microdosing movement. And I just want to say to any listeners or anybody, I will always give first one's free. All you have to do is email us in a name, address. We'll mail you. It ends up being like $100 in free Kush Kreams. Wow. I employ all single moms. We don't want to hear any sob stories, nothing like that. We just need a name and an address and send it out. Nobody abuses it. Everything stood back with a money back guarantee behind everything. You to keep the product. Just nobody bothers us because it's all shit.
Yeah, I mean, your stuff is the cream of the crop. But besides even that, it's just I'm appreciative of all the work you put in, and everything you're doing. I really am. I was so excited to have you come on tonight because I was just it's been a while since I've got to see you and talk to you, and it's always fun. And this is a lot more calm. Last time we had a group of people, but that was fun also. But I really did want to just have this kind of conversation with you, and I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for everything that you've done for this community. And you really got balls, man. You really do, and I mean that in a nice way. But you
big ovaries.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Well,
big
yeah.
Ovaries.
All right. Well, you got big ovaries because. Really, I mean, and also, I don't think people understand. I understand because I've been in whatever kind of, I don't know what the hell you want to call. I hate saying hippie culture, but between the raves and all that area, and for you to come out the way you come out, people give you shit. I get shit all the time, but people know who I am, so I'll get some nice comments. But there's definitely some people who don't talk to me anymore, or definitely look at me weird. And you've been coming with that energy, and you've been speaking truth, and you don't give a fuck. And it could really, in the communities that you're in, like it could have hurt you. I don't think it has. I don't know, but
literally, like my kid's art director for their school. I've been a room mom. I mean, my kids are older now, besides my newborn baby, but I have middle schoolers and high schoolers. And I mean, I spent their whole middle school being like a room mom, and also doing all this stuff, this whole movement, transparent about my products, transparent about our life. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, to anybody, it's just being true to yourself. It shows in the end, you know.
I really appreciate that about you, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend, and I hope other people get inspired by that, because that's really fucking cool. You've been going for it your whole life and not worried about what people fucking think, and it's amazing. Megan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was awesome to talk to you. Once again, if you want to just where everyone, KushKreams.com.
Yep, I got KushKreams.com. You cannot purchase the psilocybin microdosing psilocybin capsules on there. I just haven't. PayPal shuts me down for a lot of stuff. That's my point of sale, my POS system. I've been shut down so many times from every single type of point of sale system. For back in the day, for just having Kush, my business name is KC Products Incorporated, technically because of banking issues and stuff like that. I've had so many different, issues and whatnot. So you have to DM Psilovitabins, which is Psilovitabins, Psilovitabins at protonmail.com, or find Kush Kreams on Instagram. I just started a Psilovitabins page finally, but you can DM me on there to order. Orders go out quickly, unlimited volume. Offer a year of Psilovitabins for $500. That's a big savings. You can get them monthly, or you can get them all at once.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't know where Clint went. He was so friggin' stoned. I was like, look, he was like falling asleep through the most of the interview. He just bolted out of the studio. I don't know where he is, but I'm going to turn this off. Meg,